Welcome to True Crime, the Untold Stories. In today's episode, we delve into a tragic and intricate case of love, betrayal, and murder. Our story takes us from the bustling streets of New York to the sunlit avenues of Los Angeles, and finally to a hotel room in Seattle. This is the tale of Will Turner, a man whose double life led to a shocking end. On June 15, 2014, at around 9 a.m., Will Turner was found dead in his hotel room at the Seattle Marriott. The discovery was made by Linda Menendez, a housekeeper at the hotel. Linda was assigned to clean room 312, where Will, a commercial airline pilot, had been staying during a scheduled flight layover. As she opened the door to the room, she was met with a distressing sight. Will Turner was lying on the floor, unresponsive and bleeding. Linda's initial reaction was one of shock and fear. She quickly stepped out of the room and immediately contacted the hotel's front desk, her voice trembling as she relayed the grim news. The hotel staff acted swiftly, realizing the seriousness of the situation. They called 911 to report the incident and instructed Linda to stay away from the room to preserve the crime scene. The Seattle Marriott is a well-known hotel located in the heart of downtown, which is popular among business travelers. The discovery of Will Turner's body sent ripples through the hotel staff and guests, leading to a tense and anxious atmosphere in the building. Linda Menendez, visibly shaken by what she had seen, remained outside of the room while waiting for the police to arrive. Her hands were still trembling, and she found it difficult to remain calm. The sight of the body and the realization of the severity of the situation left her deeply disturbed. Nevertheless, she was able to provide her statement to the police and help them with any additional information they needed about the room and its condition. The arrival of the police, including the detectives who would later handle the case, brought a sense of urgency to the scene. They began their investigation by securing the room and gathering evidence. Meanwhile, the rest of the hotel was placed on alert, and staff were instructed to be on the lookout for anyone suspicious and cooperate fully with the ongoing investigation. The discovery of Will Turner's body marked the beginning of a complex investigation that would soon reveal a web of secrets and lies. As the details unfolded, the case would attract attention not just for the tragedy of the murder, but also for the unusual and shocking circumstances surrounding Will Turner's life. In June 2014, Will Turner was staying at the Seattle Marriott during a layover, as part of his regular flight schedule. He had just come in from a flight and was preparing for some downtime in the city. Will Turner was a 38-year-old commercial airline pilot who led a life that many would consider adventurous and exciting. Handsome and full of self-confidence, Will was known for his charismatic and outgoing personality. He always seemed to have a smile on his face and was admired for his charm and loved by many who knew him. Will's career as a pilot with a major airline allowed him to travel extensively, which suited his love for new experiences and excitement perfectly. But in many ways, Will was an enigma who lived a life of contrasts. While his professional life was successful, his personal life was filled with complexity and dark secrets of his own making. Will was married to 2 people, leading a life of bigamy that he managed to keep hidden from both of his partners for years. On the East Coast, he was married to Arabella Fisher Turner, a beautiful 35-year-old heiress. Elegant and well-connected in social circles, Arabella was a bit of a social butterfly who loved the nightlife. Together with Will, the couple liked to attend parties and to see and be seen as part of New York's lively social scene. Will and Arabella lived together in a stylish apartment in Manhattan. Yet, despite their seemingly perfect life, Arabella was increasingly frustrated with Will's frequent absences and had growing suspicions about his fidelity. On the West Coast, Will was married to Danny Reed, a 37-year-old financial advisor. In contrast to Arabella, Danny was reserved and introverted, a homebody at heart who enjoyed a quiet domestic life in their upscale apartment in Los Angeles. Danny often found himself at odds with Will's more adventurous lifestyle, yet despite their different personalities, Will and Danny shared a passionate and deep romantic relationship. In the days before his death, Will was occupied with a busy flight schedule but had planned to enjoy some downtime in Seattle. He had been in touch with his spouses on both coasts, neither of whom knew about the other, and eagerly discussed his upcoming travel plans and future schedule. Yet, unbeknownst to Will, his double life would soon catch up with him. When the police arrived at the Seattle Marriott on the morning of June 15, 2014, The scene was already set for a detailed investigation. Detectives from the Seattle Police Department, led by Detective Brian Corman and Detective Sarah Liu, were the first to arrive. They quickly took charge of the investigation and secured the hotel room where the body was found. The room, located on the third floor, was cordoned off with police tape to prevent anyone from entering. Detective Corman, known for his thorough and meticulous approach, and Detective Liu, who was skilled in crime scene analysis, began their examination of room 312. From first appearances, the room was clean and well kept. However, the scene was grim. Will Turner was lying on the carpet near the bed. A single, precise gunshot wound to his head. The bullet had been fired from a high-caliber handgun at close range, suggesting the shooter had been very close to Will when the gun was discharged. The detectives noted that there was no sign of a struggle in the room. The furnishings, including a king-sized bed, a desk with a lamp, and a flat-screen TV mounted on the wall, were completely undisturbed. The room's neatness contrasted sharply with the violence of the crime. There were also no obvious signs of forced entry, indicating that Will may have known his attacker or had let them into the room willingly. Detectives examined the immediate area for clues. They collected physical evidence, including the spent bullet casing and any potential fingerprints from surfaces that might have been touched by the perpetrator. They also took photographs of the scene and collected Will's personal items, such as his wallet, phone, and the key card for the hotel room. In collecting these items, detectives also noted that Will's wallet still contained cash and his credit cards, which indicated to them that robbery was not the motive. Forensic experts from the police department were called in to process the scene further. They would later perform detailed analyses, including ballistics tests to match the bullet to the gun used in the crime. Detectives also interviewed hotel staff, including Linda Menendez, the housekeeper who had discovered the body. They sought information on any unusual activity or guests who might have been seen near the room. The investigation into Will Turner's murder was just beginning. The detectives faced the challenge of uncovering who had the motive and opportunity to commit such a crime, as the circumstances were as puzzling as they were tragic. Arabella Fisher Turner, age 35, was one of the first people the police looked into after the murder of Will Turner. Arabella was Will's wife on the East Coast, where they lived in a stylish apartment in Manhattan. She was known for her grace and elegance. She had a busy social life and was often seen at high-profile parties and events in Manhattan. The detectives, including lead detective Brian Corman and Detective Sarah Liu, started their investigation by reaching out to Arabella. She was listed as his contact in case of emergency, and the detectives wanted to understand her relationship with Will and find out if she had any reason to harm him. On June 16, 2014, they flew in from Seattle and arranged to interview her at her apartment in New York. Arabella was calm and composed during the interview, and while her demeanor was polished, reflecting her public persona, the detectives noticed a layer of tension beneath her calm exterior. The detectives were particularly interested in understanding the details of Arabella's relationship with Will. They asked her about her knowledge of his travel schedule and whether she had any recent disagreements with him. Arabella explained that she had been frustrated with Will's frequent absences and his lack of transparency about his whereabouts. She said that she had asked him to cut down on his busy schedule and urged him to spend more time at home with her, but he seemed uninterested in doing so. He could also be very difficult to get a hold of at times, which also caused her frustration. Arabella admitted that she had suspected Will of being unfaithful and had confronted him about his mysterious behavior. However, she maintained that she loved Will and was heartbroken by his loss and would never have had a reason to kill him. The police also examined Arabella's alibi. She claimed to have been at a charity event in Manhattan on June 14th, the night of the murder. To verify this, the detectives reviewed guest lists and spoke with other attendees. The event, held at the Plaza Hotel, was well documented, and many people could confirm that Arabella had been present throughout the evening. The detectives took note of Arabella's reactions and responses. While she was cooperative, her past grievances with Will and the nature of their relationship made her a person of interest who could not be definitively ruled out as a suspect. The police knew that a motive alone did not prove guilt, so they continued to investigate other leads and suspects to build a complete picture of the crime. As the investigation progressed, the detectives remained focused on uncovering the truth about Arabella's involvement and her possible connection to Will's murder. The second suspect in the murder of Will Turner was Danny Reed, a 37-year-old financial advisor from the West Coast. Danny was Will's husband on the West Coast, where they lived together in an upscale apartment in Los Angeles. Danny was known for his quiet and reserved nature. He was an introvert who preferred quiet activities like hiking and walking in nature, contrasting with Will's more outgoing lifestyle. Unlike Arabella, Danny was not listed as one of Will's emergency contacts, and only came up on the detective's radar after he had contacted Will's airline asking about his whereabouts. Detectives Brian Corman and Sarah Liu followed up on this and interviewed Danny on June 20, 2014. The meeting took place at Danny and Will's apartment, which was located in a high-rise building with views of the Los Angeles skyline. Danny appeared calm throughout the interview. His demeanor was polite and collected, but the detectives remained focused on uncovering any potential motives he might have had for the murder. During the interview, Danny revealed that he had been deeply hurt by discovering Will's secret double life. He spoke about his feelings of betrayal upon learning that Will was married to someone else on the East Coast. According to Danny, their relationship had been passionate, and they had married after dating only for a short time, but the revelation of Will's bigamy was a severe blow to him. The detectives asked Danny about his whereabouts on the night of June 14, 2014, when Will was murdered. Danny explained that he had been at home, working late on financial reports for his clients. He provided evidence of his work schedule and claimed to have been alone during the time of the crime. Danny's alibi was supported by digital records of his computer activity and phone calls, but the police needed to verify every detail thoroughly. As the interview continued, Danny's responses were measured and deliberate. While he expressed emotional pain and frustration, he maintained that he loved Will and had no reason to harm him. However, the detectives noted that Danny's strong feelings of betrayal could potentially be a motive for violence. They also investigated his financial situation, looking for any signs of financial stress or disputes that could link him to the crime. Detectives Corman and Liu considered Danny a person of interest, given his close relationship with Will and the emotional turmoil he had expressed. They continued to gather evidence and cross-check Danny's statements with other findings to determine whether he could be linked to the murder. The investigation aimed to uncover the full truth behind Will Turner's death and to either rule out or confirm Danny's involvement in the crime. Hey, interested in more real-life murder mysteries? Be sure to like our content and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories. Do you have any thoughts about this case or have a case of your own you'd like us to investigate? Leave us a comment. Until then, stay safe. The third suspect in the murder of Will Turner was Rachel Green, a 32-year-old flight attendant. Rachel had worked with Will on multiple occasions over the years and was one of the crew members on Will's last flight to Seattle. Their relationship had become close over time, and Rachel was known to have developed strong feelings for Will, though he was unaware of her romantic interest in him. Detectives Brian Corman and Sarah Liu interviewed Rachel on June 22, 2014. The meeting took place at Rachel's modest apartment in Seattle, where she had been living for a few months. She seemed nervous but cooperative throughout the interview. During the questioning, Rachel explained that she had always admired Will from afar and had hoped to have a deeper relationship with him. However, she also revealed that she had started to suspect that Will's life was more complicated than she initially thought. Rachel had noticed inconsistencies in Will's stories about his personal life and had begun to suspect that his life was more than he had let on. Detectives asked Rachel about her activities on the night of June 14, 2014. Rachel said she had gone off duty after the flight and had spent the evening at home, catching up on TV shows and relaxing. She provided phone records showing calls and text messages to friends, which supported her alibi for that night. Nevertheless, despite her alibi, the detectives continued to scrutinize Rachel's background and her connection to Will. They wanted to determine if her feelings for Will had played any role in the crime. On June 24, 2014, 10 days after the murder of Will Turner, detectives made a startling breakthrough in the case. The new evidence came from an unexpected source, Arabella Fisher Turner, Will's wife on the East Coast. After her initial interview with the detectives, Arabella contacted them again with new information. Arabella admitted to them that in the months leading up to his death, she had been suspecting that Will was having an affair and had hired a private investigator to look into this. The private investigator had found out about Will's dual relationships and had also discovered that someone else knew about it, too. Rachel Green, the flight attendant. Rachel's own sleuthing had uncovered his double life, and heartbroken by the knowledge, she had lost her infatuation with Will and decided to blackmail him both for revenge and for her own gain. And while Arabella's investigation had led her to some troubling discoveries, she insisted that she had no involvement in Will's murder. She said that she had initially withheld this information from the detectives to protect Will, but after the knowledge of his bigamy became known, she had second thoughts and decided to contact the police with this information. Detectives Corman and Liu noted that Arabella's knowledge of Will's double life was significant. They were interested in whether her emotional investment and her investigation into his personal affairs might have led her to act out in a fit of anger or jealousy. Despite this, Arabella's calm and cooperative demeanor suggested she was more of a witness than a perpetrator. After Arabella took this new information to the police, the detectives were able to piece together a clearer picture of Rachel Green's activities. They discovered that Will had been receiving threatening messages from a number that had been traced back to Rachel. The messages, which were found on Will's phone, threatened to expose his bigamy publicly if he did not pay up. The new evidence led the detectives to re-examine Rachel. They were now looking at her more closely, as the new evidence suggested that she had a stronger connection to the murder than initially thought. The unexpected twist revealed by Arabella had put the investigation on a new path, significantly changing the direction of the search for Will's killer. But the twists and turns involved in solving this case were not quite over yet. On June 30, 2014, detectives made a significant breakthrough in the case of Will Turner's murder. In a shocking twist, it was determined that not Rachel Green but Danny Reed, Will's husband on the West Coast, was the murderer. The evidence against Danny Reed was built up over several days. Detectives Brian Corman and Sarah Liu had been closely examining all the new leads, including Rachel's blackmail scheme that Arabella had discovered. But the detectives had been pursuing leads of their own and found that Danny had been in contact with a criminal who he had hired to carry out the murder. The hitman's details were uncovered through phone records and a large cash withdrawal connected to Danny that was later traced back to one Harry Sims, a professional hitman. Harry had been arrested on an unrelated murder charge several days before. Ballistics tests on a gun found in his possession matched the gun to the shell casing found at the scene of Will's murder, and faced with this evidence, Harry agreed to provide information to police on the hit on Will in exchange for a reduced sentence. Based on the information supplied to them by Sims, detectives moved in quickly to arrest Danny Reed at his Los Angeles apartment. On the day of the arrest, June 30th, Danny appeared surprised but calm. He was at home when the police arrived. Detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department, which made the arrest, found him alone. Danny was taken into custody without resistance. He was read his rights and then formally charged with the murder of Will Turner. During his arrest, Danny did not show any emotion but seemed stunned by the sudden turn of events. He was briefly detained at the local police station before being transferred to the county jail while awaiting extradition to Washington State, where the crime occurred. The motive behind the murder was a combination of betrayal and financial gain. Danny had also discovered Will's double life and felt emotionally and financially exploited. Believing that ending Will's life would relieve him of the heartache caused by the betrayal while benefiting him financially by gaining Will's estate as his surviving spouse, Danny decided to take drastic action. After Danny's arrest, Will's family, including his East Coast wife, Arabella Fisher Turner, was informed of the arrest. They were shocked and distraught by the news, but they found some sense of relief knowing that a suspect had been identified and arrested. Detectives Corman and Liu continued to work on the case, gathering further evidence to build a strong case against Danny Reed. They aimed to ensure that justice was served for Will Turner and that the truth behind the murder was fully revealed. The trial of Danny Reed began on November 17, 2014, at the King County Superior Court in downtown Seattle. The courtroom was packed with spectators, including friends and family of the victim, Will Turner. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Laura Dano, 45, argued that Danny Reed had planned and executed the murder of Will Turner. Dano, known for her straightforward and passionate style, presented evidence that included phone records, financial transactions, and testimony from witnesses. She highlighted Danny's motive, which stemmed from feelings of betrayal and greed. Dano argued that Danny hired a hitman to carry out the murder and then tried to cover his tracks. On the defense side, Danny's attorney, Michael Blake, was a 50-year-old lawyer known for his calm demeanor and experience in handling complex cases. Blake argued that Danny was innocent and claimed that the evidence against him was circumstantial. He suggested that it was more likely that either Rachel Green, who was blackmailing Will, or Arabella Fisher Turner, who had also discovered Will's double life, had committed the crime, and he questioned the reliability of the evidence presented by the prosecution. Throughout the trial, Will's East Coast wife, Arabella Fisher Turner, appeared visibly distraught. She attended the proceedings daily, hoping for justice for Will. Arabella, known for her elegance and poise, was often seen holding back tears as she listened to the testimony. After several weeks of testimony and closing arguments, the jury began their deliberations on December 5, 2014. They returned with a verdict of guilty on December 7th. The jury found that Danny Reed was responsible for Will Turner's murder based on the evidence presented. On December 12, 2014, Danny Reed was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In his decision, Judge Robert Daniels noted the cold, calculating nature of the crime and explained that the sentence was meant to reflect the seriousness of the crime and to ensure that Danny would never have the chance to commit such an offense again. The verdict and sentencing had a significant impact on Will's family and friends, especially his East Coast spouse, Arabella Fisher Turner. She expressed relief that justice had been served but was still grappling with her grief over Will's loss, together with the pain of having been deceived and betrayed by him. After the trial and sentencing of Danny Reed in December 2014, the lives of those involved in the case changed significantly. For many, the shock of dealing with the aftermath of Will Turner's life and death was marked by both closure and ongoing challenges. Danny Reed began serving his life sentence at the Washington State Penitentiary in Walla Walla, Washington. His days were now filled with routine prison activities, including work assignments and mandatory counseling. Reed had to adjust to a completely different lifestyle, a world away from his previous structured life as a financial advisor in L.A. In interviews with prison officials, Reed reportedly showed little emotion, focusing on appealing his conviction in hopes of a reduced sentence or even exoneration. Arabella Fisher Turner, Will's wife from the East Coast, faced a difficult period following the trial. She returned to New York, trying to rebuild her life after the shock of the murder. Since she had married Will before he had married Danny, she was recognized as Will's only legitimate spouse and inherited his estate. Yet, despite her public persona of elegance and grace, privately she struggled with the aftermath of Will's death and the impact of his secret life on her. She remained a part of New York's social scene but was seen much less than before. Rachel Green, the flight attendant who had uncovered Will's double life, found herself facing charges of blackmail and online extortion. She eventually pled guilty to the charges and was sentenced to 10 years probation. She later married and continues to live in Washington State with her husband and 2 daughters. The local police officers, Detectives Brian Corman and Sarah Liu, continued their work on various cases. They were recognized for their thorough investigation in the Turner case, which established their reputations as skilled detectives in their department. Will Turner's friends and family had mixed feelings about the outcome of the case. While they were relieved that justice had been served, the loss of Will left a permanent void. Friends remembered him for his charisma and zest for life, while family members focused on keeping his memory alive. Each person tried to find a way to move forward, coping with the effects of a complex and tragic event that had forever altered their lives. The murder of Will Turner serves as a stark reminder of the complexities and the dangers of leading hidden lives and highlights the devastating consequences of deceit and betrayal. As we reflect on this tragic story, we are reminded of the fragile nature of trust and the profound impact that our actions have on others. Thank you for listening to True Crime, The Untold Stories. Join us next time as we uncover more untold stories from the world of true crime.